السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولو اختلفوا في مقدار الطريق جعل على عرض باب الدار وطوله، لأن الحاجة تندفع به، والطريق على سهامهم كما كان قبل القسمة، لأن القسمة فيما وراء الطريق لا فيه. ولو شرطوا أن يكون الطريق بينهم ثلاثا جاز، وإن كان أصل الدار آه، نصفين نصفين، لأن القسمة على التفاضل جائزة بالتراضي.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا، إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وتب علينا يا مولانا، إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة، إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. اللهم نور قلوبنا بمعرفتك، واشرح صدورنا بنور كتابك وسنة نبيك، واحفظنا عن زلل وخطأ في بيان مرادك. اللهم استعملنا ولا تستبدلنا، واجعلنا من ورثة نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم الناجين في الدارين. آمين. So we continue uh, with the dispute resolution between the Qasimin, between the co-owners of a shared item. And we were discussing the hukuk that are related to the shared item and how to divide that. So now he's saying ولو اختلفوا في مقداره جعل على أرض باب الدار وطوله لأنه حاجة تنتفع به. And if they are disputing, if they are having a different opinion with regards to the length of the road, then what distance it covers, then it will be made upon the length of the door of the house. Then the width of the door of the house, وطولي, and the length of it. لأن الحاجة تندفع به, because in this way the need will be removed by means of it. والطريق على سهامهم كما كان قبل القسمة, and the road itself will be distributed according to their shares as it was prior to the division, prior to the distribution of the separate ownership. Right, so basically they need a pathway wide enough for them to enter the door of their house. So that much of the pathway will be made for them. Specifically disputing with regards to how much is the roads and how much of it is actually shared or not. So much of the pathway will be made for them. It is equivalent to the length and the breadth of the doorway. So because it will enable them to get into the house. Obviously, this is referring to those times when there was no pavement and front yard and all those things, right? The door used to open directly onto the road. Like in England still is today, most of the old houses. The door opens directly onto the road, Egypt and such places. Okay, so much of the path will be allocated to them that is equivalent to the length and the breadth of the doorway. So that will enable them to enter the house. And as far as the road itself is concerned, that will be divided amongst them in accordance to the share that they have in the entire property. Okay? لأن القسمة فيما وراء الطريق لا في. Why? Because the actual division is in what is beyond the road, not the actual road itself. And the main division is in the property itself. So the property, whatever building so is on that property. That's the main division. The road itself is not so important. The road itself is just so that they can come and go. So therefore, there's not like a major issue in such an instance. ولو اشترطوا أن يكون الطريق بينهم أثلاثا جاز وإن كان الأصل الدار نصفين. And if they stipulate, they make it a condition that they want the road to be divided amongst them in thirds, this will also be permissible, even though the actual building, the actual property that is shared between them is half. لأن القسمة على التفاضل جائزة. Why? Because to have a distribution with with extra on one side is permissible. So to have to distribute an item where one share is greater than the other or one is more than the other is permissible. بالتراضي, as long as there's mutual consent. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Now we come to the last discussion, which is, as I mentioned, there's an upper story or a lower story. So either the shares in the upper story only, or in the lower story only, or in the entire building. وإذا كان سفل أو سفل لا علوا عليه وعلو لا سفل له وسفل له علو قوم كل واحد على حدته. وقسم بالقيمة. If a building has sifrun la uluwa lahu, it has a lower story without the upper story, meaning that in this case what it means is no upper story, meaning that the shared property is only in the lower story. The upper story belongs to somebody else. Okay, so their ownership is in the lower story only, not in the upper story. Follow? وَعُلْوٌ لَا سِفْلٌ لَهُ, or it has an upper story and no lower story. Again, what this means is that the shared ownership is in the upper story only, not in the lower story. The lower story belongs to somebody else. وَسِفْلٌ لَهُ عُلْوٌ, or both upper and lower story is shared ownership. Okay? كل واحد على حدته. And in this case here, each one will be counted as a separate building. وقسم بالقيمة, and it will be distributed or shared amongst them in accordance to the value of each one separately. We will take it as a separate building, and each one will be evaluated according to that. Understood that?
I didn't get that.
Did you get that?
No, Moulana, you broke up there. I didn't hear you.
Okay, so it will be divided according to the value of the property. So it will be divided in such a case. It will be divided according to the value. So we evaluate what is the value of this upper story or lower story or both. And according to that value, it will be divided amongst the co-owners. ولا معتبر بغير ذلك, and nothing else besides it will be considered. In other words, in this instance, we won't consider the dimensions of the property and divide it according to that, the length and breadth. But rather, in this instance, we'll only divide it. The only way to divide it is according to the value. قال رضي الله عنه هذا عند أبي حنيفة عند محمد رحمه الله تعالى. The author Imam Marghina رحمه الله عليه نفع الله بعلومه في الدارين. He says this is the opinion of Imam Muhammad رحمه الله عليه. وقال أبو حنيفة وأبو يوسف رحمهم الله تعالى أنه يقسم بالذرع. However, Shaykhain say that it will be divided according to the measurement and according to the square meterage of the place, not according to the value. لمحمد رحمه الله أن السفل أو سفلى يصلح لما لا يصلح له العلم. Imam Muhammad Rahmatullah's reasoning is this, that the bottom story can be used for what the upper story cannot be used for, such as من اتخاذ بئر ماء أو سردابا, that it can be used for a well, a water well, or you can use it for as a sirdab, what you call this, like a, I couldn't say, like a sirdab is almost like an inn, or inn, or a motel. So you can use it for a motel or an inn, or a stable, or a stable, and for horses, or غير ذلك, etc. In other words, it has certain amenities. You can use it for certain amenities. It won't be possible in the upper story, in simple terms. Okay, this person can rent it out or do such things with the lower story. It wouldn't be possible with an upper story. فلا يتحقق التعديل إلا بالقيمة. So therefore, there's no way to share this justly or with equality except by the value, except through the value. وهما يقولون, and Shaykhain رحمه الله تعالى, they say أن القسمة بالذرع, that the division must take place, the distribution must take place according to the square meterage. Here also, because that is the original way to distribute landed property, immovable property. لأن الشركة في المزروع لا في القيمة. Why? Because the ownership, the partnership, is in the property itself, the meterage of the property. I own 50% of this particular property, and you own 50%, or I own 30% and you own 70%, whatever the case is. So that's in the landed property itself, not in the value of it. لا في القيمة فيصار إليه. So therefore we will revert to that. ما أمكن, as long as it's possible. والمرئي التسوية في السكنة. And what is to be considered مرئي, what is to be considered here is equality في السكنة, in the residence of the place. لا في المرافق, not in the utilities of the place. All those things that you mentioned about the stable and all that, these are all the amenities, utilities, benefits that can be derived from it. So we're not looking at the benefits of what is the benefit of the upper story or benefit of a lower story. We're looking at the residence. Understand? That you're able to stay in the place, able to use the place to reside in, not the benefits that come from it. So, because obviously that can be different from building to building, from person to person. ثم اختلف فيما بينهم في كيفية القسمة بالذرع. Thereafter, Imam Hanifa and Imam Yusuf rahmatullahi differ amongst themselves with regards to how it will be distributed by square meterage, by meterage. You following?
Yeah.
Right. فقال أبو حنيفة رحمة الله ذراع من سفل بذراعين من علو. So Imam Abu Hanifa رحمة الله says that one dhira of the bottom, right, the dhira is approximately, what did I tell you, 58 centimeters plus minus 10. So we just use the meter just to make it simple. That 1 meter of the lower story is equivalent to 2 meters of the upper story. وقال أبو يوسف رحمه الله ذراع بذراع. Imam Yusuf رحمه says no, it's all equal. 1 meter is equivalent to 1 meter. It doesn't matter whether you are on the lower story or upper story. 1 meter has the same value in both. Okay? كلا أجاب كل واحد على عادة أهل أصله. So it has been said that why do they differ? Because each one of them have presented their answer or proposal to the masala according to what was common in their time. And this was how the people commonly saw it. In those days, in the time of Abu Hanif, the lower the lower story was more valued than the upper story. وَأَهْلُ بَلَدِهِ, and according to the people of his town. Right? So, in other words, this is not a masala with regards to a Shari'i ruling. This is not a Shari'i ruling. It's not based on a Shari'i proof, sorry. The ruling of Imam
Yeah.
Hanifa and Imam Yusuf is not based on a Shari'i proof, but based upon urf, what
Yeah.
was common in their time and in their place. Okay?
Yeah.
في تفضيل السفلي على الأوبي, that in their time and place, the lower story was given preference over the upper story. واستوائهما, and in the time of Imam Yusuf rahmatullah, استوائهما, it was equal in his time. So the people valued both equally. Okay, so this was not the reason of this, the difference of this is not based upon any shari dalil or reasoning or anything, but rather based upon urf, based upon what is customary, what was custom in their time. وتفضيل السفل مرة والعوب أخرى, and giving preference to the lower story sometimes or in one time, and the upper story in another time, another period. وكيلا, so that's the one answer to it, why they differ. وكيلا, it has also been said وهو اختلاف معنى, that it is a difference of a difference of Shari'i proof, a difference according to the Sharia. وهو اختلاف معنى, معنى meaning that they each have their own illah, a reason for a Shari'i reason for why there is why it will be done so. Okay. Now here I didn't understand this so properly. Understand? I'll translate it whenever. But I didn't understand properly what Imam Hanifa rahmatullah is saying. وجه قول أبي حنيفة رحمة الله, and the reasoning for Imam Hanifa rahmatullah according to the second opinion, that is based upon a Shari'i dalil, أن منفعة السفلي تربو على منفعة العلوي بضعفه, that the benefit of the lower story is greater than the benefit of the upper story, twice by 2 times. It is 2 times or twice more than the upper story. لأنها تبقى بعد فوات العلوي. Why? Because it can remain after the lower story is no longer there. After the upper story is no longer there, right? So, for example, if the upper story was taken down for some reason, the lower story would remain. So it has the ability, it has more permanence than the upper story. ومنفعة العلوي لا تبقى بعد فناء السفلي. Whereas the upper story, the benefit of the upper story cannot remain after the lower story has perished. If for some reason the lower story is removed or falls down, collapses, for example, the upper story is going to will collapse with it. So the upper story is based upon the lower story. So therefore the lower story has greater significance in virtue and value than the upper story. وكذا السفل فيه منفعة البناء. And likewise, the lower story has the benefit of construction, meaning the foundation is on it. والسكنى, and residence. وفي العلوي السكنى لا غير. Whereas the upper story, you only have residence, and you don't have the foundation there. Understand? So it could, depending upon who put the slab in it could be weaker than the foundation. Understand that the lower story is standing on. You follow?
Yeah.
إذ لا يمكن بناء. That's another part, sorry. We're still coming to that part. إذ لا يمكن البناء على علوي إلا برضاء صاحب السفل. Why? Because it's not possible to build upon the upper story except with the permission of the person residing in the lower story. فيعتبر ذراعان منه بذراع. So because it is superior and more valued, so therefore 2 meters of it will be equivalent, up to 2 meters of the upper story will be equivalent to 1 meter of the lower story. ولأبي يوسف رحمة الله عليه أن المقصود أصل السكنى. Imam Yusuf sticks to the reasoning mentioned above. Again, that the actual purpose of a residence is sukna, to reside there, to be able to stay there. That's the actual original purpose of a building, of a home, of a house. وهما يتساويان فيه, and whether you're in an upper story or lower story, they're both the same. They're both equivalent in that regard. So whether you're staying or living in the upper story or staying or living in the lower story, in that sense, they're both the same. They're both equal. والمنفعتان متماثلتان, and the benefit that you derive from each are similar in nature. If not exactly the same, they are similar. لأن كل واحد منهما أن يفعل ما لا يدور بالآخر على أصله. Why? Because each one of them will have the right to do something that in no way harms or impedes upon the other, as is based upon his asl, based upon his original argument, which is sukna. Okay? Al-Asli Imam Yusuf Rahmatullah. So based upon the principle of sukna, each one can do in his space whatever he wants to, as long as it doesn't in any way harm the person staying in the other space. Okay? ولمحمد رحمه الله, and according to Muhammad رحمه الله, أن المنفعة تختلف باختلاف الحر والبرد. That all this benefit that you are mentioning, it differs with the difference of the weather, hot and cold, بالإضافة إليهما, in addition to staying in the upper story and lower story. Because sometimes the person in the upper story, he can get great, so in connection to or in relation to each of them, upper story or lower story. The person in the upper story, sometimes it can be very hot there or very cold there, depending on the location, which country, and the season, and so forth, and vice versa. And so these things can differ very much from building to building, and which level you're staying on, upper level or lower level. فلا يمكن التعديل بالقيمة. So therefore, it's not possible to فلا يمكن التعديل إلا بالقيمة, isn't it? Yeah, I got قيمة. Yeah, anyway. So it's not possible to do this justly or equally or equitably except through the value, except with the monetary value of the place. Because those amenities and benefits that you're mentioning, it differs vastly. How are you going to construct a principle that can apply equally to everyone? Not possible. والفتوى اليوم على قول محمد, and the fatwa in today's time is upon the opinion of Imam Muhammad رحمة الله. وقول لا يفترق إلى التفسير, and furthermore his opinion, Imam Muhammad رحمة opinion, doesn't need any kind of explanation. It's simple, just evaluate it, and according to that, we distribute it. Whereas Imam Abu Hanifa needs some explanation, as well as Imam Yusuf as well. Well, not so much Imam Yusuf, Imam Hanifa rahmatullah more. Understood that?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll stop there, inshallah. So this next part is the part I was talking about, sorry. How to divide 2 meters by 1 meter. How to go about doing that is explained, and it's a bit confusing for me. Inshallah, I'll have another look at it over the weekend. Hopefully something will open up, inshallah. You may dua for me as well. Something will open up by next week, inshallah. Bismillah ta'ala. Any questions, anything you didn't understand?
No, this is all to do if they own both, no? If they shared in both stories.
All three doesn't. Yeah, this will be. Yeah, sorry about the upper and lower. Yes. Then.
Okay.
No, no, sorry. It's all 3 situations, whether it's upper or lower or both.
Okay, in all 3 situations. Sure.
Yeah.
Jazakallah.
You most likely apply more to where they own both. More likely, most likely, most of the argument will apply to when they own both. But as you will see from Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah's explanation, it can also include the other 2 when it comes to the evaluation, because how are you going to evaluate it? So he explains that, and it's a bit confusing there. Anyway, but like you said, it makes more sense if you take that they own both upper and lower. They shade both upper and lower. G. Anything else?
That's all for myself.
Moulana, is there a lesson tomorrow?
On Monday, inshallah.
Muff?
So do you have lesson tomorrow?
Monday, inshallah.
Monday.
Sure, inshallah.
Actually, Friday night, Jum'ah, inshallah, a lot of salawat, dua for yourselves, for your parents, for your asatidha, and for the entire ummah as well, inshallah. Surah Al-Kahf as well, Surah Dukhan as well, inshallah. Myself and yourself, tawfiq, inshallah, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala.